South Pacific Ocean, May 5th, 1910. An expedition group of 20 people was attempting to cross the South Pacific Ocean to reach Antarctica for further exploration of the continent. The weather was pleasant, with sightings of an approaching storm. George Adams, the leader of the group, was also the oldest and most experienced sailor. But what he didn't know was that his journey would become one of the greatest mysteries of the known world. For centuries, sailors and researchers had tried to cross the South Pacific Ocean, but this time it would be different. Up until then, the only way people attempted this journey was with wooden boats. But to uncover the full mystery of the South Pacific Ocean and reach Antarctica, a new kind of exploration machine was needed. Luckily for Adams, motorboats were a new kind of exploration machine. Adam came from a not-so-rich family, so to raise the money and buy a boat, he had to use his own savings and raise money from wherever he could. He lectured day and night, even writing a book outlining his ambitious plans, but it still wasn't enough. To raise even more money, he had to turn his expedition into a scientific research endeavor involving the media. Keep in mind that at that time, the motorboat was a new piece of machinery. Equipped with the newest technology, it could help solve the South Pacific Ocean's greatest mysteries. In the end, he did manage to raise enough money and buy the motorboat, naming it Frost. Adams would set off in spring. They set sail on April 13th. The journey across the Atlantic was terrifying. The tiny boat was easily tossed around by fierce South Pacific storms. The motorboat itself was small. They only had one toilet for 20 people. Almost every member of the crew suffered from seasickness. To make matters worse, during their first week, one of the engines essentially stopped working, forcing Adams to make a decision, whether to continue onward or turn back and face humiliation at home. Without exception, everyone wanted to turn around and head home. Everyone except George Adams. So he made the decision to keep going. The expedition was supposed to take 3 weeks to complete, but those weeks turned into months, and people began to wonder, what happened to Frost? Back on the Frost, not everything had been perfect since they set sail. To make matters even worse, when engine number 2 failed, they spotted a big storm forming on the horizon. The crew prepared the boat as best they could to face the upcoming storm. But when the storm caught up to them, it was a disaster. Engine number 2 failed shortly after, leaving them basically stranded. Just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. During the storm, one of the sailors saw something huge circling their boat. He claimed it was a shark, almost 40 feet long, nearly the size of their entire boat. Then it happened. The shark started ramming the boat again and again. Adams and the crew were terrified by the sheer size of the shark. As the shark kept attacking, the boat was being destroyed more and more, with crew members falling into the freezing water. A total of 12 people ended up overboard in the freezing ocean. When the massacre was over and the storm passed, the remaining crew prayed that the creature would leave them alone. The only surprise was how the boat didn't sink. It somehow kept floating on the water. All around was blood, with human hands and a few heads still in the water. Adams never talked about that, taking his secret to the grave. His remaining crew followed his lead, taking the secret with them, all except one. William Blake was the one who shared the story in 1924 on his deathbed. The public at that time was convinced that it was a megalodon. Considering other similar events that have happened, the most prominent was a 1918 shark attack near the coast of South Africa, where 2 ships were destroyed and 100 people killed. What do you think? Was it the Megalodon